Hi, I'm Takesh, an interior designer, and this is my channel, The Red Elevator, where I talk about design the way designers actually talk, and there's no fluff and no basic tips. I really cut to the chase on this channel, and I talk about things that nobody else is willing to divulge. So if you want to learn a lot about interior design and create the space you love, this is definitely the channel to subscribe to. I put out videos regularly, actually I should say weekly, and you guys liking this video and hitting subscribe is going to help the channel, and the algorithm will reach other people. So if you don't mind hitting subscribe, that would be huge and forever free. So let's get into the top 7 designer secrets for a timeless home. This is one of those things that sounds so minor until you actually experience the difference. Most people pick door handles based on looks alone, the finish, the shape, and completely overlook the weight. But the weight is everything. When you close a door and the handle has real substance to it, like solid brass, solid bronze, something of actual heft, it changes how the whole house feels. It feels built and it feels high budge. Now, lightweight hollow hardware is one of the very first things that I notice when I walk into a space, because it just seems like an afterthought, especially hollow doors. And when you combine the hollow door with the hollow handle, guys, it just breaks the heart because the price differential is minimal these days. There are a lot of great brands out there that have solid pieces. It doesn't have to be solid brass, it could be solid whatever coated by brass with brass. So we don't have to spend a lot of money to get the uber chic look, and that's why I'm here to really cut through the noise. All right, number 2, your lamp should never match. This is a controversial one because people buy lamps in pairs. And look, I'm guilty of it. I've got a pair of lamps, but I want to say this. It goes against instinct because we're taught that matching equals polish, but perfectly matched everything, table lamps on both sides of a sofa, or a bed is not the greatest thing to do. Now, if you already have them, you have them, that's okay. We're not going to trash them. But maybe we move one and bring in another. Maybe we move one of the matching pairs to another part of the home so that we can become a little bit more designer. What designers do instead is pair lamps of similar scale but completely different silhouettes or completely different materials. Maybe one is ceramic and one is brass. Maybe one is tall and slim and one is shorter with more presence at the base. The scale keeps it cohesive. The difference keeps it interesting. It looks collected rather than coordinated, and collected is always timeless because it suggests a life that has been lived rather than a staged room or just a purchase from a store. All right, number 3, never let technology date a room. What do I mean by that? Well, technology dates a room faster than almost anything else. Look at interiors from 15 years ago, and you can immediately tell what decade it was by the TV that is in there. It's rarely the furniture. So I always like to have things that are built in, things that are hidden, and preferably in bedrooms. If you can avoid having a television in there, that would be obviously best. But if you do, have it in a way that becomes a little bit inconspicuous, like a hotel room, for example. The more intentional something was designed in, the worse it tends to age. That's what makes this hard. The instinct is to build around technology to make it a feature. And sometimes that's right, but you have to think about what happens to that room in 5 years when the technology has moved, which is why the technology today is very seamless and minimal, and you should count on that. Screens are everywhere now. They've gotten beautiful when they're on, but off, they just look like a black void on the wall. The dead rectangle is one of the hardest things to design around because it's not really a design object, it's an absence. And the bigger and more prominent it is, the harder it becomes. I've seen people put iPads on their walls. I've seen people put all sorts of gadgets on their walls thinking it's cool. But if you can, remove them and use your iPhone is the point. By the way, in all transparency, I decided to partner for this video with Ink Poster. I saw this guy opening an ink poster and I'm like, what is that? I was so fascinated. We contacted them. They sent us a sample and I loved it. And I said, okay, we got to feature this. We have to feature this because it has this intrinsic, beautiful look to it. And let me explain. It's an e-paper poster, so not a screen in the way that you've imagined. The surface looks so much like real paper and ink that people walk up and touch it, trying to figure out what it is. That's happened more than once in my own home. So no cords on the wall, no heat, no glow, completely silent. I was mesmerized by this item. So when they reached out to partner with me, I was fascinated. I'm like, what is this? Is this art? What could it be? And the thing I keep coming back to is that even when it's off, it still shows the artwork. It never becomes that dead black rectangle. It's absolutely beautiful. And I actually have it in my family room because I love it and want to keep it and want it up and want to use it. And I'm thinking of even buying more of them because I control everything from my phone. So changing it up when I want a new moment in a room takes about 10 seconds. They also have licensed art options, which matters a lot if you're doing this for a client or a commercial space. You guys can't just put Monet up without getting a licensing. So all the art that is included is absolutely acceptable. And some models are designed in partnership with Pininfarina. I don't know why I said that with an accent, but it sounds like it should have one. So if you know that name from the automotive world, it tells you something about the design pedigree behind it. Code Nina5 gets you 5% off. Link is in the description section. All right, let's get back to number 4. Patina is a design material. Now, this is something designers understand deeply and most homeowners don't discover until much later. Every room needs one thing that has already lived a life before it arrived at that space. An antique, an heirloom, something worn in the right places, something with a story in its surface. It doesn't have to be expensive, it just has to be real. It has to be a little bit beat up, is the point. And the reason this is timeless is almost philosophical. New things, no matter how beautiful they are just new. Old things bring history into the space, and that's what really high-end interior designers and beautiful homes have. Something new is just trying to prove itself, but something old has patina. It's already settled. It brings a calm to a room that no brand can replicate. And it keeps a space from feeling like a showroom. When everything in a room is new, the room has no memory, the room has no flavor. One piece with genuine age gives it one. And that changes everything about how the space feels. And speaking of things that are invisible when done right, let's talk about number 5. Your outlets and switches should disappear. They're the bane of my existence and yours. I cannot tell you how many otherwise stunning rooms are undermined by builder-grade outlet covers, light switches, plates that were never thought about once. It's background noise that your eye registers, even when your brain doesn't, and it adds up to a room that feels really unfurnished or a little bit undone or very much undone. So there are simple solutions to this. One, we finished a project recently, and what we did is we faux finished the plates, and you honestly cannot tell. It is so well done. So if you have a faux finisher, that is what we recommend. There are also other outlets called bocce. Bocce outlets are essentially just the round with the little holes, and they are so smooth and beautiful, flush on your counter space. You can also faux finish those tops, or if you don't faux finish them, you can get them in the color of your countertops, and they are so little, so chic, so wonderful. I want to put them everywhere. That keeps your wall from looking like a builder grade home. You could also do brass switches with plates, which are really beautiful, and they can patina if you get them in an unlacquered finish. There are a variety of ways to do this to make your home feel very edited. Now I want to talk about materials, because when it comes to timelessness, what something is made of matters just as much as how it looks. Number 6, linen is always the right answer for drapery, upholstery, bedding. If you're ever unsure, choose linen. By the way, it can be a faux linen as well, especially for curtains, because the sun lately has been eating everything alive. And I find that the faux linen actually works quite well. So not only does it photograph beautifully and looks even better in person, it softens with age, it breathes, it moves the way a fabric is supposed to move, and it drapes correctly in a room when you've got curtains made of linen, which is why every designer specs linen for curtains, if you've ever wondered why. The reason it's timeless is that it has no era. You can find linen in ancient interiors, in the most contemporary spaces, and it reads right in absolutely both. It will not compete with your furniture, and it is just chef's kiss. Number 7, a very important point I wanted to make is about your cabinet hardware. It should feel substantial. When you're standing in a showroom holding a bar pole that feels a little too long for the drawer or a little flimsy, whatever it may be, it doesn't look right. The slightly oversized pole is almost always the right choice. Longer, leaner hardware has an understated visual presence, even though it's technically larger. It really draws the eye in a line rather than stopping it at a point, and it reads as architectural rather than decorative. In a kitchen or bathroom, when you're looking at a lot of repeated hardware across a lot of cabinet fronts, the distinction matters enormously. Small knobs can be very chic but need to be repeated. Longer knobs can also be a statement and can continue the linear format on the cabinetry. Knob placement is one of those things that I believe is more like art, and it is something that you need to look at from a distance, evaluate, and place accordingly. And that's 7. These are the kinds of details that don't make the mood board, but make the room. And they're the things I'm always looking at when I walk into a space. I hope this was actually useful and not just pretty to look at. If you want more of this kind of deep dive into what makes a space look done and beautiful, then make sure and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.